heroes in a half shell. Turtle power.
Dave Sim, that would be me, interviews Kevin Eastman in a multi-part series on the origins of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles number 8, 1986, the Cerebus crossover, the front cover of which recently auctioned for an eye-watering $78,000 at HA.com. Turtles 8 Remastered 2023 is being offered March 1st to March 31st on Kickstarter, with a series of variant covers by some of today's hottest indie creators. Don't miss it. And don't miss Kevin's 12-piece Turtles art auction, including a page from Turtles number 8 with Cerebus on it, coming in the March 30th to April 2nd Heritage Signature Auction at HA.com. Also in the March 30th to April 2nd Heritage Signature Auction, my 3 Turtles number 8 variant covers. Now, let's talk to Kevin. Yeah, I used to like the joke at signings where people would say, can I take a picture? And I'd say, sure. And they'd hold up their camera and I'd go, oh, of me? No. And they're like really embarrassed. It's like, no, I'm just kidding. Go ahead, take a picture.
Well, I used to laugh at and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you used to offer signature forgeries when you were at shows back in the day. I thought you.
Go ahead.
No. I just remember that you offering somebody that you could do a perfect Frank Frazetta autograph or somebody else. Do you want me to sign it as Dave Sim or somebody else? Maybe that was. I overheard it as kind of a funny thing that you were saying as a joke, or you could actually do that.
That was my thing for signing a counterfeit Cerebus number 1. I'll sign it Frank Frazetta or Neil Adams. It's your choice.
That's awesome.
And the last signing, September 2010, which started at 9 o'clock at night and went through until about 5 o'clock in the morning at Strange Adventures in Halifax, Nova Scotia. The wee small hours and really running out of gas. And Margaret Liss, Cerebus fangirl, was there, and she was the last one at the last signing, pointedly wanted to be the last one at the last signing. And one of the things she wanted signed was her counterfeit Cerebus number 1, and I was so punchy by that point, I signed it Dave Sim. And it's like, I've never done that before. That's the only counterfeit Cerebus number 1 signed by Dave Sim, and it's got to be the last autograph that I do at the last signing. You couldn't write that. You couldn't write that.
No, that was, it's funny because I've unfortunately seen, I've had people come up to me at shows and they would have a counterfeit Turtles number 1, and they say, oh my God, I can't believe you got a Turtles number 1, especially now with the stupid money for some of those. And I would look at it from immediately looking at the cover and said, this is absolutely not, unfortunately, a Turtles number 1, and this is why. And then even, people that would bring up, say, a third printing and say, oh, look, I've got Turtles number 1. I said, yeah, but it's a third printing. Not that a third printing is it's still rare,
Right.
But it's not a first printing because, that's the thing that makes a Cerebus number 1 rare is that there were limited copies. And with the Turtles, there was 3,000 printed for probably only about 2,500 actually probably made it out into the public, and that's what makes them. Anyway, but it's crazy. I look at some of the valuations of some of these books these days, and I'm grateful on the one hand, but it also reminds me of some of the days of great concern, if you will, which was the black and white boom and bust, and even the image period when, I remember talking to Jim Lee and John Nee when Wildstorm and Image was rocking on all, cooking on all burners, that they would not print a book that did not have an order for 1 million copies.
Right.
And I just went like, well, that's just blankety blank. Stupid. And they said, yeah, but that's what the market is warranting, and that's what the market will bear right now. But I said, I just can't believe that people are actually buying this book at, 200, 300, 400 copies at a time and thinking it's going to be worth something someday. So, anyway, but that's a whole other subject.
And Jim was actually the first one to say, where's the bottom? Like once the orders were getting cut, it's I don't see a stop to this. I don't see where it is that we actually get to actual sales here, which I think compelled him to think, I'm going to leverage this into a job at a corporation that is going to be able to keep paying me whatever it is that I'm going to get out of them with the leverage that I've got now. And it's
yeah, but
go ahead.
But it's again, it's probably a conversation for a much longer conversation, but it is one of those things that you look back on, hindsight being 2020, of course, that you go, the black and white boom and bust were the next, adjective, noun comic title was selling 100 to 150,000 copies by speculators, and so people were investing in it crazy. So the between 5,000 and 6,000 comic stores that we had at that time, when the market dropped, we lost half of them.
Right.
And that sucks. And that's very sad, because I know you would do these wonderful tours where you would tour a lot of comic book shops in support of your comic creation and bringing awareness to it, which I thought was fantastic. And then we had a repeat of that when just about when the market recovered 3 or 4 years later. You had the glossy cover, the 1 million print run. I mean, the death of Superman sold 7 million copies.
Right.
And you kind of go, even Will Eisner would go, "What the fuck is wrong with you people?" But no, just people in general go, you do understand the economics here. You understand the reality here is that's never going to be worth really anything, because a fine champagne or a fine wine or a very it was only 46 Tuckers made back in the day automobiles, and that's why they're rare and that's why they're valuable. And just the reality, it really hurt a lot of our business over the years. And that's sad, but that's I don't know. I remember a keynote speech. Again, I know we're digressing here a little bit, and probably more than we should. But I remember a keynote by Will Eisner a few years ago where he just said, I've seen the comic industry die 6 times.
Right.
He said, actually, let me rephrase it so hopefully you can play it better than it was. He said, I'm hearing 2 complaints here at the Comic-Con, is that how difficult the business is and how crowded the aisles are here at Comic-Con. And then it led into him saying, I've seen the industry die numerous times, and we always come back because of the fans that we have. But anyway.
Okay, that's 8 minutes. So no problem. I did want to talk about the illustration, the Secret of the Ooze illustration 2020 Waxwork Records. I've got to figure that for a guy who at the time you were almost 60 and you're doing an album cover. That's for a devout music fan and a devout movie fan, that must have been a real gas.
Without a doubt. In fact, what was really fun about that is this company called Waxworks Records was one of the pioneers in preserving vinyl, not only as a just a wonderful way to release an album or soundtrack or those kind of things. And if you look at the Waxworks Records site, is like they not only did, it wasn't just the celebrity hit heavy soundtrack, popular hits as a soundtrack. It was actually the score. So they would do, Mean Street. So they would do, Godfather. They would do these really classic albums and actually release a lot of the score, which to me, I didn't realize there was a market for that kind of thing. So they approached me a number of years ago to do Turtles Movie 1, and John Dupree was the guy that did the score for Turtles Movie 1, 2, and 3, and said, we're going to release the score, we're getting the rights to it, would you like to do the cover art? And of course, I immediately remembered, every Roger Dean album cover I loved, or Richard Corbin's Bat Out of Hell, or
Right.
those kind of thing. So I said, oh my goodness, yes. And so I did, for Turtles Movie 1 score, I did the front and back cover, and also I told the guy, I said, I'm going to retell the entire first Turtles movie on the center spread. So from the top left-hand corner to the bottom right-hand corner, I tell the entire movie in a very abridged form. Plus they let me design the labels. They actually pressed the vinyl in different turtle colors. We did a promotional poster and a lot of other things that were exclusive to that, and it was just wonderfully received. So when I did, so then they went on to do Turtles Movie 2, which is Secret of the Ooze, which is the one that I put into the Heritage Auction. It is very similar. This artwork was created specifically for that album, and only for that album. It's never been shown or seen anywhere. I did a center spread featuring characters and crew and things that were done just for that. I did the front and back cover and limited, labels for the inside and things. And just recently had just done the third movie. This is over a course of 6 years, so like every couple of years they'll release another one. And they sell well enough that they invite me back to do one. So it's lovely. And so, so this is what's exceptional. So there's a fan of all things Turtles, especially the Turtle soundtrack. That's a very unique item to grab hold of.
It's interesting. I was just reading a week ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, in the paper that vinyl is outselling CDs for the first time since whatever, like 1990 or something like that. And it's there's one of those things I would never have predicted or even imagined in my wildest imaginings.
I don't know if you still have your original vinyls. I do, unfortunately. Not unfortunately, I say fortunately, let me correct myself, because it just takes up a lot of space, but I have them all because I love them all, and I don't even have a turntable to play them all, though I'm going to get one. But I did read that article. I thought that was amazing, because that was much like, it reminded me of when I first moved to, when I first met Pete in Northampton, Massachusetts. They had this amazing record store, which also sold comics, called Main Street Records. And they had the back issue bins that you would flip through from missing issues, and they would have the record albums that you would flip through for albums and rare imports and things like that. And to me, that was, and actually I can tell you specifically, and I know you'll dig this, is that's where I first found the studio book.
Oh, okay.
In the
right.
remember it was they did the Roger Dean book, the same format. It's like almost 12 by 12 album cover size, but the studio book had I think it was Barry Smith cover, but it featured the layout and the works of Mike Kaluta, Barry Smith, Jeffrey Jones, and Bernie Wrightson. And I thought that was, I just thought there was nothing cooler on the entire planet than one day having a studio like these guys had in that book.
The funny thing about that is that just about the time that the book was coming out, the studio was ceasing to exist.
No, I'm so glad you brought it up because I've been lucky enough in my life to have not only spent some really wonderful time with Bernie Wrightson before he passed, and Mike Kaluta, Barry Smith to a much more limited degree, and even Jeffrey, who did a wonderful signing at our gallery around the time that we did Cerebus, where we showed all 300 pages going all the way through the Words and Pictures Museum, where
Right.
he was becoming Catherine. And the stories behind the stories were just the best ever because it was that take on reality where your perception of, I was talking to somebody at a convention this weekend, Jimmy Palmiotti, we were talking about Days Gone By, almost done, and we were talking about when they would show drawings in Marvel Comics, when they would show the Marvel bullpen,
Right.
which never existed. When they would show all these different artists sort of lined up in chairs, Marvel offices, it's the same thing. That never existed, and when you realize that, Bernie Wrightson talking about Barry Smith would go home and draw all the stuff, but they come in and play his guitar all day and annoy everybody, and these different sort of things came out of that
Right.
studio experience. It's one of those,
And they had
here's the perception and here's what we believed in and here's reality.
And it was the loft was divided into the 4 compartments, one for each artist, and they had mouse infestation, and the mice only ate Barry's prints.
Oh, Jesus.
Now that's got to make you make a fella paranoid. It's like, what is it? Because I'm British, or what is the problem here? Yeah, we could swap studio stories. I remember being at one of the Fanticons when both Bernie and Barry were guests, and they were sort of like discussing, but getting edges in their voice. It's just discussing back and forth, and I went, well, I know why the studio broke up, and it's like Bernie pointed at Barry and goes, yeah, it was his fault.
Well, listen, what I'm going to tell you is one day, I don't know if it's possible, what I would really enjoy is to just sit with you and have somebody record us just talking like we are now. And just because there's, you're not that much older than I am. We have a lot of history. We have a lot of interesting things that have happened during our time and our perspectives on comics and the history of comics and things that I feel like it would be a shame to see it lost, even if it's, because it's not really, I don't see anything we're talking about as two old guys saying, I remember when everything cost a nickel. But
Right.
I remember when there were stories that I wished, I have this wonderful poster, and I bought the Paul Maverides original art too, called Comic Book Confidential. And we've only had a couple comic book movies that really barely scratched the surface of history and things of some of these people that we've since lost, but to actually have this kind of thoughts and inputs from, say, guys like Frank Miller or yourself, or things that, just, I don't know, I feel like it would be archival and inspirational, and just again, not any of the stories we told have not been fictionalized or made more grandiose, or it's just the reality of different things that we've experienced. And coming up on Turtles will be 40 years old next year. Cerebus was, I think, the first issue was 1976, I believe.
77.
So I don't know, 77. I don't know, just wishful thinking on my part. So
I think we can probably keep doing these. I've been we'll slow down a bit after the Heritage auctions on the 31st for your pieces, and April 2nd for my 3 after Eastman covers. And then the next signature auction we both have stuff in is in June.
Yep.
So it's one of those, if people get hooked on, these weird stories, that I'm kind of glad that Russ Heath's masturbation joke is now preserved for posterity.
Well, look at this. Well, let's wrap this up. Let's put this in our thinking. Let's do a Kickstarter to raise money for us to raise some money to have somebody film us talking about this stuff.
I'm not sure about filming. Recording is this is already really low tech, but all you're doing is listening to these guys talking. It's not like you really need Dolby sound for that.
I agree. And, where I was, like Muhammad Ali used to say, a long time ago, it was very pretty, and maybe not so much now. So yeah, I'm happy to record as well. So.
All right. Okay. All right. You have a good night, Kevin. We're gonna have one more of these to do for the Kevin Eastman collection, and it's the Last Ronin #2, story page 35 that I wanted to talk about. If you want to do some studying in the meanwhile.
Love to. Look forward to it.
All right. Have a good night, Kevin.
Thanks, Dave. You too.
Talk to you next time.
Thank you. Look forward to it.